Why didn't you mention that before? And if you're a pro, you don't need to attend a class. You just wanted to show off in front of everyone, didn't you? At Karen's words, I felt the pent-up emotions I had been holding onto for so long were about to spill out. I think I was frustrated with her for always picking on me. With a smile, I was like, well, I didn't intend to flaunt that I'm a professional, and even though I'm a violinist, I don't have the knowledge to teach, so I just sought guidance in the classroom. My name is Michelle. I live with my husband Robert and our only daughter Katie. Since Katie's birth, I've been a stay-at-home mom. I used to work, and it was quite a unique job. Robert was like, since it's our first time raising a kid, why don't you take it easy for a while? So, I decided to take a break from work. Robert has always cherished me and has been committed to our relationship. After Katie was born, he's been proactive in helping with child-rearing. Whenever I felt overwhelmed, he'd get the household chores to help me out. I deeply love Robert, and having Katie has made our life even happier. Mom, I want to learn the violin. One day, Katie excitedly said this when she got home from her preschool. Apparently, a few of her friends had started attending music classes, and she seemed to be inspired by them. The preschool Katie attends is pretty well known in San Francisco, and they offer various activities. As a result, there are numerous extracurricular classes in our area, and most kids there are engaged in some sort of activity. Of course, I'd been thinking about enrolling Katie in a class but didn't want to push her into something she wasn't interested in. But when she expressed her desire, after some discussion, we decided to enroll her in a music school near our home and her preschool. When we discussed it, Robert was like, that's great, violin, huh? It's perfect for Katie. With a smile. He probably imagined Katie playing the violin on stage. When I told Katie the good news, both she and Robert were ecstatic. Thus, Katie began her journey at the music school. However, there was an issue lurking at the school. The school offered courses not only for violin but also for piano, guitar, and other instruments, catering to children's ages and levels. They mainly target kids from preschools to early elementary age, and older kids attend their affiliated schools. Of course, given its proximity to the preschool, many of Katie's friends, classmates, and other kids from the same preschool attended. Many of Katie's preschool mates attended this music school. I've often met familiar mothers there, which gave me a sense of comfort as Katie and I started attending. Since the school is relatively big, there are numerous teachers. Consequently, parents often mingle outside the classrooms while waiting. The mothers and I regularly saw each other during the scheduled class times. So we naturally got to know each other and formed a group of about 10 mothers. Among them was someone who could be called the alpha mom. It was Karen. Karen is the mother of a boy named Harry who takes piano lessons. Harry and Katie are in the same class, so I knew Karen by face. To be honest, I wasn't too fond of her. She was quite ostentatious, always showing off her flashy clothes and luxury brands while other moms dressed more casually. She was often like, "You gotta look good, right?" with a smug smile. Though many of us were put off by her attitude, we didn't want our kids to be affected by any tensions between the parents, so we maintained a superficial relationship. However, a particular incident made me the target of Karen's ire. It began during a casual conversation with the other mothers. One of the mothers was like, "It's amazing how quickly kids pick up new skills. I tried playing after a long time, and I was shocked at how rusty I was." There's a fair number of moms who used to play musical instruments and think it's beneficial, so they have their kids attend the music school. Given that many of the mothers used to play musical instruments, this was a common sentiment. Hearing this, boastfully Karen was like, "You guys can't play? I've been playing since my childhood and can still play just fine." Most of us gave her an awkward smile, but a few moms praised her, feeding her ego. Seeing her revel in the attention was almost laughable. Egged on by the praises, Karen continued to speak. It's kind of sad, isn't it, when kids are practicing and parents can't teach them? I think they'd improve more not just in the classroom, but if parents closely watch during practice, don't you think? While there's some truth to that, I didn't understand why she was boasting about it. I always believed that kids progress by working hard and enjoying the process. What's the point of parents bragging about playing an instrument? With these thoughts, I looked at her. She was like, "What about you all?" And everyone responded. Maybe they didn't want to upset her, and most people were modest and they were like, "I played a bit back in the day." I wasn't sure how to respond. Seeing my hesitation, Karen started targeting me with a smirk. "How about you, Michelle?" Well, caught off guard, I couldn't answer properly. Seeing this, Karen sneered even more. "Well, it seems like you can't play, can you? Violin might need more skill than piano, but if you can't play the piano, there's no way you can play the violin." I almost sighed at her condescending attitude. I never said I couldn't play, but she seemed to have made up her mind. Nobody else challenged her loud laughter. No one wanted to become her next target. The thing is, I can actually play the violin and, while I'm at it, the piano too. I started taking violin lessons after watching a music show with both instruments. That's how I fell in love with music and even attended a music college. But I never felt the need to tell everyone that I'm a graduate who can play both. Well, Karen, I haven't practiced as intensely as you, so I'm not that skilled. That's obvious. Comparing me to someone who hasn't practiced wouldn't make sense. I was even about to give her a respectful look because of her selfish interpretation, but she kept going on. Also, I asked my husband to buy a special piano just for practice at home since I think it's necessary for the lessons. What about you all? The other moms shared their situations. Instruments are expensive, and there's no guarantee that the lessons will continue. Perhaps that's why there's so much consultation and discussion before making a purchase. The moms would state reasons, and some of them were like, "We live in an apartment." Some moms were like, "Well, we have a guitar, I guess." What about you, Michelle? Violins are pricey, so I assume you couldn't get a special one? Feeling a bit provoked, I replied honestly. Actually, I have one. Oh? But it's probably a cheap one, right? I just smiled at her excessive comment. However, she shocked me by asking, "Hey, can you show us your violin? The ones at the studio are probably expensive, right? I want to know the difference between the sounds of a cheap one and a high-end one." I was speechless. When I hesitated, Karen, with a sly smile, continued. "Actually, we'll just come over to your place. You live in that big house, right? I've been curious about it." I was almost like, "Ugh," at her insinuating comment. The other moms were like, "I've been curious too." I tried to stop it, but since the majority there agreed, I couldn't decline. Things escalated quickly, and soon Karen suggested we have a mini concert at my place. They were like, "If you have a spacious house and instruments, it should be fine to play during the day, right?" With everyone agreeing, it was hard to decline. In the end, we decided to hold a casual music gathering at my place. Everyone was excited, bringing snacks and even planning to have their kids join in. At first, I wasn't thrilled about it, but I saw it as a chance for the kids to enjoy music. When I told the whole story to Robert, he laughed and was like, "Moms have it tough, huh? But show them what you've got, Michelle. She's gonna regret underestimating you." Surprisingly, the one I might fear the most could be the husband. The funniest part was Katie, and she was like, "Mom's the best," which made me blush. And on the day they were expected, I greeted the mothers and children who gathered in front of my house. "Welcome everyone. I may not offer much in the way of hospitality. We weren't expecting anything fancy." Although Karen always had a tendency to be critical, the other moms seemed a bit surprised and addressed me. Your house is quite impressive, Michelle. Really, the design is wonderful. Thank you. Perhaps finding this unamusing, Karen audibly huffed and turned away. I truly wondered who the real child was here. As I guided them into one of the rooms, everyone's expressions changed. That's a huge piano. Just like the ones in the music schools. Before the moms could say anything, the children burst out in excitement, their eyes shining brightly as they gazed at the grand piano in the room. The room I showed them was soundproofed and spacious, with a grand piano placed inside. This space was designed when we moved in here. Robert was like, Michelle should definitely have a place to relax and play music. I remember shedding tears of joy when I was surprised by this. The piano itself was a gift from Robert's father when the house was being built. Given that my father-in-law was in the music business, he seemed pleased to offer it. Although initially, I felt it was too grand a gift and I was like, I truly don't deserve this. But he was like, all I wish is for you to make beautiful music here. It'll be wonderful if it can serve its purpose when we have grandchildren. Your piano is huge, Katie. For someone not majoring in piano, it's impressive. Seriously, my house just has a much smaller piano. Listening to the words of the children and Harry, Karen had a look of envy. By smaller piano, she probably meant an upright or digital one. I thought that was enough, but maybe her pride just couldn't accept it. Wait, there are smaller pianos than this? Katie, during her violin practice, always used a grand piano in the classroom. She probably had never seen any other kind of piano. Of course, she must have encountered digital pianos in places like preschool, but she might see them as different. But having such a big piano is meaningless if you can't play it, and Katie, you're in violin, right? What a waste. Anyway, let's put this piano to good use. Thus began the music session initiated by Karen. Those in the guitar class mostly brought their own, and they were like, well, there are cheaper ones out there. For the violin class, not many had their own, but since I had one for practice, I lent it out. The moms showcased what could be considered the fruits of their practice. Songs like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and Edipurka echoed, played with all the hard work from amateurs to those with experience. The kids, however, seemed less interested, diving into the snacks that were brought and beginning to play. Then, it was Karen's turn. She took a seat at the piano, took a deliberately deep breath, and placed her hands on the keys. The other moms knew they had to pay close attention to her performance, knowing the potential fallout later if they didn't. And the piano slowly came to life. Upon hearing the notes, including myself, the moms frowned a bit. For someone who bragged so much about her skills, Karen's playing honestly wasn't that great and felt somewhat disjointed. Frankly, some of the other moms probably played the piano better. The classical piece she chose also sounded rather crude because it didn't match her skill level. Even the children were like, that's a strange piece, isn't it? As Karen finished her piece, we all clapped and were like, that was amazing. With a smug look, she was like, I guess I'm just not used to this piano. I couldn't play as well as I usually do. I found that hard to believe since the piano's keys moved so smoothly. The thought crossed my mind, but I just clapped without saying a word. Finally, it was my turn. With a triumphant smirk, Karen was like, now it's your turn, Michelle. She still thought I wasn't able to play well, perhaps contemplating how to criticize my performance. First off, with such a pristine environment and the presence of a grand piano and violin, I wondered how one could think that I couldn't play at all. With that thought, I fetched a case from the storage inside the soundproof room. Everyone looked on with curiosity, and I took a violin out of it. Oh, that violin is... Oh, yeah, I just thought I'd be more comfortable with this one. The moms were surprised by my words and couldn't respond. Leaving that be, I began to prepare mentally. What should I play? Honestly, I felt bad for the kids and wanted them to have a good time. As I was thinking this, little Katie approached. She seemed to have noticed that I was getting ready to play the violin. "Mom, can you play the one you always play for me?" "Oh, gotcha." Honoring Katie's request, I began to slowly draw my bow across the violin strings. The piece Katie was referring to was the theme song of a kids' TV show that airs on Sundays. I started playing it slowly, but as the chorus approached, I picked up the pace. The kids seemed to recognize the tune and started expressing their amazement. They were like, "Wow, that's amazing." I played with enthusiasm, transitioning into a medley of other familiar songs from children's shows. The violin might lack the grandeur of a piano, but I added more pieces to make sure it wasn't too plain. The children clapped along. After about 10 minutes of performance, I began the outro. As I set the violin down, the kids rushed over and were like, "That was amazing. How can you play so many songs? I want to play too." The moms gathered around and were like, "That was truly spectacular. I'm in awe." Praised my skills. Chuckling, I was like, "Thank you." Harry was like, "Hey, why is Katie's mom so skilled? You're like a pro." And the other moms nodded in agreement. At that, Katie blurted out, "Well, my mom is a pro." "Huh? What do you mean by pro?" The room was filled with astonishment. "Wait, Michelle, you're a professional violinist?" "Oh, yeah, technically. I've taken a break from performing because of child-rearing. I used to be active as a violinist." Karen, cutting off the compliments from the other moms and kids, burst out, "Why didn't you say that earlier? If you're a pro, there's no need for you to attend classes. You just wanted to show off and steal the spotlight, didn't you?" Karen's words made me feel a rush of emotions that I had been holding up until that time. I had always been annoyed by her baseless accusations. I didn't want to flaunt the fact that I'm a pro. And while I am a violinist, I don't have the expertise to teach, which is why I sought guidance at the music school. "So, you've been a housewife while claiming to be so busy? Don't you have time?" Like I said earlier, I've taken a break from concerts for a while to focus on raising my child. Plus, I managed to practice well at home. Karen had nothing to say in response. The other moms began to discuss and they were like, "That performance was really something else. None of us could compare." Feeling left out, Karen remained silent for the rest of the gathering. In the end, after a lively discussion with the moms, we called it a day. Karen glared at me resentfully. But considering she orchestrated this, it was all her doing. Having cleared up the misunderstandings, I felt more at ease chatting with the other moms at the preschool and the music school. It was a positive change brought about by this event. Karen stopped bothering me after that. I thought the matter was settled until I heard a shocking story later on. Karen had apparently vented to her husband about the day's events. She was like, "She flaunted her skills just to embarrass me." But her husband retorted angrily and was like, "It's because you're always so superficial. You're probably the one at fault." Karen seemed to try to make an excuse, but Harry was like, "Mom, please stop, it's embarrassing." One day at the preschool, Harry was like, "All my mom has is pride." Because of that, it seemed to have gotten out about this story. People were already fed up with Karen's high level of pride, and she was reportedly given an ultimatum that if she continues to be a nuisance, they might get divorced. Karen, who was truly heartbroken, became surprisingly quiet after that. She stopped trying to one-up others in class and would just nod at me and move along. I felt a bit relieved to finally have some peaceful days. I was always on edge in the classroom because Karen was there. Seeing her so humbled, I realized that even someone with immense pride can change. "Mom, I was praised today." "That's great, you're getting better and better." "Yeah, I want to practice more and become a pro like you." "If anyone can do it, it's you, Katie." Now, with Robert, we're cheering for Katie's dreams. Whether it's in the classroom or at the preschool, life has become much more relaxed, and we're living happily. Now that things have settled down a bit, I've started planning concerts again after a long time. While enjoying these fulfilling days, I'm gonna keep doing my best as a mom.